This podcast may contain spoilers from across the entire Xena series, so please proceed with caution, because honestly, who knows what the hell's going to come out of my mouth. On that, I probably will say the occasional naughty word, but if you're cool with that, let's battle on. Hello and welcome to our Xena Season 3 wrap-up on Xena Warrior Commentary. You know me, Phil, and I can't believe that we are not only at the end of Season 3, we are also halfway through our show. And in some ways, I feel like we've been here for 1,000 years, and in some ways, I feel like we're just getting started. It's always exciting with each season where you think, oh, you know, is the best behind us or is the best still to come? And I think that's what's exciting about the show, is there's always something great to come. Unless maybe in the last 40 minutes of the show, you feel differently, and that's fair enough. Now, of course, in these final season wrap-up episodes, we don't have to watch anything. We are just going to reflect on the season that was. I'm going to take us through our little lists that I've been keeping along the way. If you have lists, please feel free to share them with me. And let's get started with it with one of probably the most exciting lists that we make, which is the most hated. Is it weird that something so negative is so fun? I think it's just part of loving our characters so much that when we meet someone who's trying to do them harm, we're like, no, you've got to go. So, most hated, we've got a top 10 for season 3. We've also got a combined one, but there's a few that I put on the list that didn't make the top 10. So these are sort of the reserves. If anyone in the most hated makes a comeback, you know, later on, then these people will go on the list. So on that short list is Seraphine, Nemesine's accent, which could be the number one most hated of the entire series, but no, because no one really remembers Nemesine, do they? Bailey from Warrior Priestess Tramp, Gabrielle's writing, which I know the show tells us that it's really good, but sometimes I'm like, is it? Dorian from One Against an Army. I mean, in some ways we want him number one as well, but I didn't find him annoying. Just like a bit of a bad guy, but Xena dealt with him, you know? And lastly, the little special mention is the townsfolk or the villagers from Sacrifice Part 1. The ones who were just like, priestess of the blood, flesh. She was the blood, wasn't she? They were just kind of annoying, but again, Xena dealt with them. But most hated, coming in at number 10, and we do have a couple of people sort of sharing slots in the top 10 because they were sort of paired up. And you'll know what I mean when I say it. At number 10 is Ming Tian and Ming Su. I mean, how do you split the difference between who to hate more? I think Ming Tian, because we got to know him as a little kid, there was like, no, little Ming Tian, like adorable. But it's like, no, big Ming Tian killed Lao Ma and was just a bit of a monster. But Ming Su was as well. But then he also has the soft part where he like actually does care about his son. It's all very confusing. But basically, they probably could also be a number 1. But for now, they're at number 10. Number 9, we've got Craftstar and Meridian. Same kind of setup where they're in it together. And Craftstar, I mean, obviously we love some other characters played by this gentleman, but he was just like creepy cult dude. And then Meridian seemed so sweet and then wasn't. And we've got to keep in mind that she also plays Citrina later, and she'll probably be on the list too. Number 8, and I feel bad saying it, but you know, it has to be noted that Gabrielle in Gabrielle's Hope, doing what she did and not believing Xena with the evil baby, I'm sorry, for a brief moment I was real mad. And so for that reason, and only that reason, because the rest of the time when she's not writing bad stories and she's just being our amazing lovable Gabs, you know, iconic, we love her. Coming in at number 7 is who I nicknamed Baby Nope, or Baby Hope. Now, there are a few versions of Hope. So this one is specifically the baby who is like killing people with the sword in the castle. Evil Baby Hope. Gotta go. Coming in at number 6 is Rafe from King Con. Now, he was hated mostly because he was doing that weird bet. And I know we're meant to like him, but I don't. I just don't. Sorry, mate. He kind of goes alongside our number 5, which is Eldon, who was the curly-haired friend, and also Titus and Leo, and basically all of King Con. I felt that Rafe, you know, was at least written to have some redeeming features, But I really felt like everyone else in this episode was unbearably boring and nothing. And they really did a number on Joxa. And it's like, like if a really, really like evil person was horrible to Joxa, like we'd hate that too. But you're like, oh, well, they're evil. But these guys were just kind of douchey non-characters. I'm like, how dare you be like, we're kind of being told that they're really important and they're not, and I don't care about them. So they're on the most hated, clearly. Number 4, now this could easily be number 1 of the whole series, and that is Tara's hair. It's infuriating, to say the least, but Tara is as well. And I suppose she goes along with the hair, but she isn't on the list as a whole because I think she does redeem herself. And that surprised me. If you had have asked me, I probably would have put her, asked me before this rewatch, I would have put her very close to the top. But actually, when you get to know her, there is a heart there. But, she's annoying for a while. At number 3, speaking of hair, we have Little Girl Hope. So the little girl version who kills Solon. I mean, she probably should be number 1 as well. And her hair is also counted as part of it. And I think the only reason I didn't put her right in at number 1 was because I thought she was played well. The little girl actor did a good job. There was some interest and intrigue going on there. So we hate the character for her actions, but the actual character was kind of iconic. Number 2, this surprised me, but this character, I literally wrote next to it, bad guy, fucking annoying as hell. So I really didn't like this character, and that is Macon. I don't even know how to say his name. I didn't care. He was in Tsunami, and he's the bad guy who just keeps doing annoying shit. And I was like, once or twice, sure, but I think he does about 5 things, and it's like, fuck the fuck off. Like, there's nothing here for me. And Xena lets him live. No. Xena be stabbing randomly throughout the rest of the series. Stab, kill. But no, this guy she saves. The only redeeming feature is that she said at the end of the episode that, she'd expect nothing less of herself at this point. So I'm like, okay, sure, fine. But the number 1 most hated, and this might be a bit surprising because technically we don't know who this is, but my number 1 most hated for season 3 is whoever killed Argo in Been There, Done That. I'm sorry, you don't get to come on my show and kill my best friend Xena's horse. Argo is one of the MVPs of this show, and some douchebag went and killed her over some dumb argument in a dumb town that no one cares about. Like, someone has a hat and it got run over. Fuck off. So I will not stand for 1 second harm being brought to our Argo. Not going to happen. And so for that reason, whoever killed Argo is number 1 on the most hated list for season 3. Now, how does this all come together when we look at the combined most hated? And I'm going to go through these quickly, otherwise we'll be here forever. But when I put the combined most hated with season 1 and season 2 and I mixed it around, it was tough because I really hated a lot of people in season 1 by the looks of it. And I actually moved it to a top 12 because I had to include a couple of people on here. And things have moved around a little bit as well because sometimes like the thought of someone later annoys me even more. So at number 12, we have the tree from Destiny. Absolutely. At number 11, we have Centares and his stupid fingers from the Royal Couple of Thieves. Number 10, Diomedes from the Black Wolf. He kind of comes around, but God, he's annoying while he's there, isn't he? Number 9, Eldon and Rafe from King Con. Together, they are just the worst. At number 8 is Platt Girl from The Reckoning. She's the one who's like, get away from my husband, or whatever. And it's like, fuck off, she's trying to help him. Fuck you. There's a lot of F-bombs in when I get angry, isn't there? At number 7 is Stone Girl from Sins of the Past. She's the one who throws the stone at Xena first. She could also be number 1. Number 6 is Little Girl Hope and her hair. The hair is what tips it over. Number 5 is Macon from Tsunami. At number 4 is Atreus in Ties That Bind. Number 3 is Galen. Is There a Doctor in the House? Oh my God, he was annoying. Number 2 is whoever killed Argo in Been There, Done That. And at number one, retaining the number one spot, because he's both annoying and just like never kind of apologizes or anything, is Piranus from The Reckoning. Piranus, maybe? Just the guy thinking he knows everything that went down, and like they didn't even, like they go in and beat Xena up. Fuck you to death. He probably was the one who killed Argo. Let's be real. It was probably him, so he deserves number one. All right, now we have something more positive, which is our top 3 episodes of the season. Now, I do go by the score I gave it, so there is a definitive top 3, which is the episodes that all got 10s, but I do like to go by score. So, I mean, we've got some strong episodes coming in with a score of 9, tying at a score of 9 is Been There, Done That, The Debt Part 2, One Against Tsunami, When in Rome, and Sacrifice. So we are dealing with some good episodes here. Just beating it in second place, or beating all of those in second place at 9.5 is Maternal Instincts. It is almost top tier. It is top tier in a lot of ways, but unfortunately for it, there were 3 episodes that I thought were stronger. And they are our 10s coming in at number 1, The Debt, The Bittersweet, and Sacrifice 2. Now, Sacrifice 2 being here, it's funny because I look at The Bittersweet and The Debt, and they are, I would say, even stronger than Sacrifice 2. But Sacrifice 2 brings the whole gang in. It's very camp and fun and has a lot of the elements of Xena that I love. So I think for nostalgic reasons, it gets a 10 as well. And that means that the 10s so far in the whole series, for me, are Death in Chains, Callisto, The Quest, A Necessary Evil, The Debt Part 1, The Bittersweet, and Sacrifice Part 2. So we've got 7 now. And I was hoping to get a top 10 by the end of the series, so we may have many more than that. We'll find out. Of course, as always, if we have a top 3, there must be a bottom 3. And I think the last few seasons we had some ties, whereas this time it was a very clear bottom 3. So coming in at 3, which isn't really a bad episode, I gave it a 7. It's not a bad episode, but it's not my fave, and that is Forgiven. I have forgiven just a little bit, because I think there is a bit more heart there than I initially wanted to admit, maybe. But even so, in such a strong season, that is the number 3 least favorite for me. Number 2, which got a 6, is Vanishing Act. I love the idea of this episode. I love Bruce Campbell. I love Lucy being a weird New York realtor, whatever she is. I just don't think it worked. And it's a fairly meh episode after such a great season. And number 1 of my least favorite episodes, I don't think this will be a surprise, is King Kong with a score of 5. And I think the mistake this episode makes is just being boring. Aside from Joxer, who, we don't want Joxer to go through what he went through, I don't care about anything in this episode. And I just wanted it to be over from the moment I started. I don't really like the guest stars that much. I've seen them in other things and enjoyed them, but I don't love them here. And yeah, I just don't think this episode really adds much at all, except for maybe a little bit of depth to the relationship Xena has with Joxer. We already know Gabrielle has some fondness for him, but we don't really know how Xena feels about him, and clearly she cares about him. But other than that, it's in the bin. And I then went and I put together the overall bottom 3. And look, this, we could have a top 10, but I thought, let's try to keep it short and sweet. Coming in at number 3 it's still on the list, is Death Mask with a score of 5. At number 2 is King Kong, which we just mentioned. And still at number 1 with a score of 4.5 is Ties That Bind. Though I would argue King Kong is more boring than Ties That Bind. But Ties That Bind made me angry. Now again, we've gone negative, so let's go positive with a little crush. I'm wondering what other people's crushes are, because obviously we all have different, things that we look for. I'm clearly taken with a pretty face, but I like some depth as well. So don't read into that. That sounded naughty. It wasn't meant to be. But I do like a character who's a little bit sweet, or just a decent human, or sometimes just someone with really good cheekbones, even if they're evil. So my top 3 crushes for season 3. This was we had a few going, but I had to narrow it down, and I'm going at number 3 is grown-up Ming Tian. So the adult, to be clear. He's just got a sweet face, even though he's kind of evil. So I think it's more for the actor than for the character in that situation. At number 2, we have he's always going to be on this list, isn't he? Kevin Smith as Ares. Even when he's being completely devious, you just one look and it's like, all right, well, you can have whatever you want. Fine. Take my home. Sure. But somebody who took me by surprise, and I didn't realize until I went back and re-listened to the season 2 wrap up, that this actor actually made it onto my crushes last season as well, but was even more of a standout in this season. And that is, the actor is Tamati Padaway, but the character was Vikinix, who I just could not stop staring at. When he was on that screen, I don't know what else happened. I was just like, what? Hi. And he goes up as well because he's a good guy. Obviously, Ares is a bit naughty, which is great for a good time, but probably not great to take home to the parents, But things look a little bit different when we put everything in, we take it all into account for the overall crushes. And Vikinix actually comes in at number 3. So I hope we get to see more of Tamati. I guess we'll find out. Number 2 is, he's probably always going to be on a list somewhere. And that is Spherus from Chariots of War. It's the blue eyes. And he didn't want to kill people. That's lovely. But coming in at number 1, I don't know if this is for the first time. It might be. But it's by sheer consistency of being beautiful and showing up, and this character we've gotten to know a little bit more over time, and the actor, of course, and that is Kevin Smith, because he should be number 1 always, but of course seasons change, and so sometimes you have a crush over here or a crush over there, but Kevin Smith is consistent, to say the least. This brings us to Joxer help or hinder. Did he help this year or did he not help? And I was kind of surprised by this one because we had, I think, 9 episodes that he was in this season? I could be slightly off, but sometimes I miss things, but pretty sure it was 9 episodes that he was in. 4 of them, he actually helped a little bit in. So he got a help tick. 1, he definitely hindered, and that was Forget Me Not, because even though, he was trying to be helpful, he did not help at all in that episode. If anything, he just made things worse. But there are also 4 episodes that are sort of in the middle, which I've written or help or hinder, because sometimes, and the way, he's written, he can be helpful and also blundering at the same time. So sometimes it's like, oh God, he didn't help over here, but he did ultimately help here. So they sort of cancel each other out. So I'm wondering if at the end of this series, it's just going to be a whole bunch of ors, which look, could be worse. And on that note, I have put together where we're at so far with Joxer, which is he's helped 9 times, even if it's just in a small way. He has hindered 3 times, and he has awed 4 times. So I feel like the awe could keep growing just quietly. All right, we're smashed through our lists, which brings us to the sort of ultimate part of the wrap-up, which is my overall thoughts. And as always, I like to write it down just to have... So what I've written is that the quality of the storytelling definitely lifts on those big episodes. Like the debt alone, the bittersweet, like there's so many big, huge character moments. Like it's really exciting. The Rift, it's a hard watch. It's hard to watch your characters that you love go through this for a whole season. It's a lot. There's a lot. Just when you think it's over, there's another one. The lying and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, it's a great watch. Like it really sort of elevates the series. And I think ultimately strengthens the characters' relationships. And, I think people watching season 3 who maybe don't understand this side of the show, I think it really surprises them of like, oh my God, I really care about these characters and this is interesting and dynamic, which is not always, credited to Xena. Like people aren't always using those words, which they should be, frankly. On the other side of things, I do feel that some of the lighter episodes in season 3 aren't quite as memorable as the ones in season 1 and 2. I don't know exactly what it is, because there are some good light episodes. You know, I think Fins, Femmes and Gems, that's hard to say actually, is very strong. I think The Quill is Mightier is quite fun. There's definitely some funny episodes in this, but they're just not as iconic as the funny ones, I think, well, I shouldn't say they're not as iconic. I think those ones are fairly iconic, but maybe some of the other sort of what they call filler episodes just drop a little bit more in contrast to the incredible episodes in this season. And like the best example I could think of is comparing the Xena double episodes. So we had Warrior Princess in season 1, Warrior Princess Tramp in season 2. I would argue they're both iconic. The Princess Diana storyline, everyone remembers that episode. Like, remember when like the princess had to go out of the castle and Xena had to be the princess? Like, everyone knows that. Then season 2, we get Meg. Meg. We love Meg. Season 3, it's the priestess episode. It's Leah. Look, I don't have an issue with that episode. You know, I think it got a decent score. It's fun, but it's not Warrior Princess or Warrior Princess Tramp. I think that's maybe the best way I can describe it. I think some of the things, maybe because the great episodes got so strong that now watching some of these episodes, the drop just feels a little more jarring, maybe. So I've just said not bad, but not quite as memorable. If I'm going to go watch one of those kind of lighthearted episodes, I'm probably going to go to season 1 or 2. Like even something like For Him the Bell Tolls, which I think was in my bottom 3 for season 2, I would watch that over King Kong and Vanishing Act any day. And maybe it's just because King Kong and Vanishing Act are right towards the end. That's why it feels, you know, whereas the rest of the season is actually still pretty strong. And overall, I think season 3 really took some risks. I think that is the thing that we're all probably the most grateful for as the show goes on, is they don't just repeat the same thing. Like, yes, there are moments where they refer back to, you know, other episodes and characters and things, but they are always moving forward, and that continues. They don't kind of go through anything quite as full on as The Rift again, but some big stuff. We've got some big stuff to come. So I'm very much looking forward to those. And I normally just check in and see if there's any reviews as well to read out. I couldn't find any, but with that said, it is hard to come across them in Australia. It's always hard to kind of go through the different programs and find each and every country. But we're getting lots of ratings, which is fabulous. So some people are rating it, not necessarily leaving a review, and that is just as appreciated. So thank you very much. Now, lastly, as a little treat, something I've not done before, I realized that, you know, there are some stories that I've alluded to here and there about my real life experiences as a Xena fan, in particular with the cast. And I'm pretty sure I told a little bit of a story about meeting Hudson. I might have sprinkled in some Lucy stuff as well. But I thought, since I kind of have 4 main stories that have occurred in my lifetime of, you know, to do with the cast, I should share. We've got, you know, 4 more season wrap-ups, including this one. So I should share 1 story per season to make sure that I've actually covered them, because sometimes I might mention something and maybe I then talk about it, but I don't always remember because I'm paying attention to the episodes. So I thought we could start with the first time that I met Lucy Lawless, and just give you a little bit of a rundown of my interaction, because I'm sure many of you listening have probably met some of the cast at some point. Some wouldn't have, and that's okay too. But I know as Xena fans, we're very passionate and we like to get out there at the conventions and stuff. And look, I'm sure many of you have better, bigger, more incredible stories than I. There are some kind of good ones, I'm not going to lie. But, you know, I've not been lucky enough to go to any of the big retreats. But I just thought I would share my little stories and maybe you would enjoy them. So my first time meeting Lucy, and I've actually not told this story out loud for a while, so I may forget details, but she came to Melbourne for one of the conventions, and I had just had surgery, and I think I was recovering, and it was probably about a 3-week recovery. And I was like all bandaged up, and it was around my midsection. So I was like kind of hunched over and very bandaged, and I couldn't walk very fast. But meeting Lucy, knowing that was about 3 weeks after the surgery, was a bit of an incentive of like, okay, I'm going to get there, you know. And by that point, I could walk around the house pretty freely, but actually walking out in, in public and being outside, you realize, oh my God, I'm so much slower than I realized. Like at home, I feel like I'm taking these big steps now, but only because initially I was kind of shuffling. But once I was outside, I was like, oh no, I'm still kind of shuffling. And I remember the car park was forever away. And I emailed them and I said, look, I have tickets to come along and meet Lucy Lawless. And I think it was over the whole weekend. Maybe she was only there Friday and Saturday. But I said, I'm recovering from a surgery. I'm okay, but you know, I can't be up for too long. Like I'm going to need breaks and things. So what would be the best time to come so that I'm not like waiting for hours and hours in line? And they said to me, if you come on the Friday night, there's sort of a Xena fan only kind of part where it's going to be less people. So you can come along to that and get your photo. And then the next day, if you can come back and then you can just get the autograph. And so basically that's what I did. And so it did mean going in twice, but it also meant sort of shorter bursts of time. So I went in on the Friday night and it was from memory freezing cold and a long walk to get to where I needed to go. And I'm shuffling. And so thankfully there were some lovely Xena fans that just kept an eye on me. And one of whom is a lovely woman I'll shout out named Marion. I don't know if she actually listens to this, but she's a big Xena fan. I am still in touch with her on Facebook. And she was kind enough to tag along with me to a few things and even took some photos of me when I met Lucy, and even then later dropped me back at my car because she was parked closer. So I was very appreciative of that. And it just goes to show how much the Xena fans look out for each other. And I remember being in line to get, I think it was the tokens where you get your autograph token and things. And there were other people there. It wasn't just Xena fans. Like there were other things on that night for different fandoms. So it wasn't a guarantee that people in the line were Xena fans, but there was something about Marion and myself that we just recognized straight away. It was like, oh, you're a Xena fan. And that was before we'd even spoken. So that was a lovely little connection to make. So we went and I think I've got to remember now, watched a few different people speaking and things like that. But we were really there for Lucy. And I can't remember. I think it must have been the Q&A first because, yes, that's right. We'd been pulled into this shed, like a large one, like a warehouse, but it was essentially, big tin shed. And we would line up and the guy, the MC who had the microphone was basically standing in the audience, but there was a big gap between the audience and the stage. And because it was a Friday night, it was like a special part of the event. It wasn't packed. And so it was relatively easy to go and ask a question. But because I was so bandaged up and I was, still fresh out of hospital and healing, my voice, much like today, my voice is exiting my body apparently today, but I couldn't project my voice well at all. And my question was a very fan kind of question, which was about a later episode, which was Antony and Cleopatra. And a comment that Lucy made in the commentary on the DVD box set, which was that the actor playing Antony, which was, of course, Manu Bennett, who ended up in Spartacus, he kind of upset the stunt team because he went really hard in the fights. And I went back to double check the commentary, and it's Renee, Lucy, Rob, and Michael Hurst. And they all sort of agree that he was quite method and went really hard on the fights. Michael even says he knocked someone out, broke a lot of swords. Like, it was really full on. And so I was curious as to what it was like to then go on to Spartacus and be working together so closely with someone who is so method and had some of that sort of resolved just with experience. And because Lucy even said, like, his performance was great, but he was just really full on with the stunties. And of course, that is a question that I needed to provide context for. And as I went to ask my question into the microphone, it was a mixture of me being unable to project my voice. The microphone wasn't great, but even more so, the sound in this tin shed was horrific. Lucy could barely hear anything. And the guy, the MC, he kept repeating people's questions, louder so that she could hear them. But her mic was good. Our mic sucked. But he was repeating questions like, what's your favorite episode? Or did you keep anything from the set? Whereas my question was a little bit more detailed. And I probably worded it better than I did here today because I wanted to be thoughtful about it. It wasn't about saying, oh my God, Manu Bennett's bad. It was just like I said, like a curiosity of like the acting and the reality of working with different people over different times. And obviously if Lucy remembered that, it had stood out to her. And I wondered how she had, what she'd thought when she's like, oh, we're working together again and quite a lot. And on, I don't think they had fight scenes, but certainly on like, a lot of physicality, let's say, in their scenes. And so as I'm trying to ask my question, I'm getting frustrated and I'm tired as well. Like, so this is hard and I'm so excited. Lucy Lawless is right there. And it's the first time I'm seeing her. And for anyone who, you may have been there yourself, but Lucy had just cut her hair to be the Xena fringe again. The rest of her hair wasn't as long. It was maybe just a little bit past the shoulder, but it was sort of after Battlestar, after Spartacus, she'd briefly gone back to that Xena look. So it was like meeting Xena. I cannot tell you. So I was like, oh my God. And it was my like one little chance. And I thought, I wanted to think of a question that maybe she'd not been asked. So I kind of looked frustrated and she was trying to listen. And I just pointed at her and I said, can I just come up and ask you? And she's like, come on then. And so I got to walk up. I was the only one, not to brag, but I was the only one allowed to go anywhere near the stage. I think they were a little bit overprotective of her. I think she would have been happy to have everyone up there. And I'm shuffling still, right? So I'm shuffling up and Lucy's on the stage. So we're probably about the same height. I might be a smidge taller, but at the time, like I said, I'm hunched over. And also she's up on about, 1.5 feet of a stage. So she bends down and like, I don't even ask the question into the microphone. I just ask it to her face and she's looking in my eyes. And I was like, what? I don't know and I was a little kid because I was looking up. I felt like that little kid again. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, I'm staring at Lucy Lawless. That's Xena. She has her fringe. But also just like taking note of like, I don't know, like, oh, she's wearing makeup, like it's just little things like, I don't even remember. And so I asked her the question and she kind of like filled in the gaps for the audience of like, oh yeah, worked with someone on Xena, then worked with him on Spartacus. And yeah, he was a little tough on Xena. And then she went to answer the question. Now, some of that got a little bit like skewed because I turned around and I was so excited. Everyone was having like, everyone was happy for me and having a little chuckle. But the guy, the MC, and he didn't mean it, but he grabbed me really hard. And I'm like, mate, I've got fucking stitches, like calm down. And so that kind of sucked. But thankfully, that was a quick moment. And then I got to hear Lucy's answer, which was basically to say, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she said, firstly, he's a lovely man and she enjoyed working with him, but he's a bit method. He can really go for it. And she said, once she kind of knew that and once the team knew that, they could then sort of build around that. And so she said, she could just say to him, all right, that's enough. If he was just a bit full on and then he'd be fine, So it was interesting going, okay, cool. You found a way around that. Like when someone is maybe more of a method actor, that's great if it is, a good performance, but everyone else around you has to deal with that. And you need to find ways to break that a little bit. And so I think with Lucy, her way was just like, she said she'd just nudge him a little bit. Like if he just got a bit too close or something, she'd just nudge him. And that was his sign of like, okay, you're too close. And yeah, but he's a big, he'd be 6 foot something. He's a big, strong dude. And that's a lot of weight to throw around and if people aren't prepared for it. And, I think being a stunt person is a lot more practiced and rehearsed than anyone would imagine. Like, I'm sure most people probably realize that, but it's even more so than people probably think. So it's really more like a dance than anything else. And he has maybe just come in a little bit overzealous. So then I'm already excited and Marion, who I mentioned before, got a couple of photos with me and I do look like a little kid looking up at Lucy Lawless. I might be able to post them on the socials. I'll see if I remember. We then go to take our photo and we line up and I'm basically, my teeth are chattering. I'm still so nervous and so excited. And there was something about being the state that I was in. I did feel quite vulnerable and, like a little kid again. So it was kind of lovely in a way, of like, when I rounded the corner, because you line up to get the photo, I come around the corner and, Lucy's there and I'm holding my little chakram that a friend had found for me in a store. And Lucy sees me, grabs the chakram and goes, "Is this for me?" and flings it around. And I'm dying because I'm like, oh my God, she's holding the chakram. My plan was maybe I would hold the chakram in the photo, but no. Lucy Lawless is like, "That's my chakram," and grabs it. And he's flinging it around like Xena. And I mean, you could have just knocked me over with a feather. I couldn't believe that this was happening. And then she pulls me in for the photo and we both are holding the chakram in the photo, and I look so unwell. I really do. I may not post that photo, even though, maybe I will. I'll see how I feel. But I look really short as well because I'm so hunched over, and so she looks really tall over me. And Lucy is tall, but it is funny to see in the next photo, I look like I've grown. And at that point, she's basically holding me up, because I am very tired and a bit sore, and I'm kind of shuffling off. And she must have noticed as I was walking out, and, without going into it, was nothing life-threatening or anything. But I turned to her and explained, "Oh, I've just gotten out of hospital and I've got this on." And she really took a moment to, I think up until then, she'd been in sort of Xena performery mode, being a bit fabulous and all of that sort of thing. And I could see her just turn and have a normal moment of, I don't know, just wishing me well or whatever it was, but it was quiet and genuine. It wasn't sort of "Oh, good luck," it was "Oh, good luck. I hope everything's good," and blah, blah. And I was like, how do you beat that? I got to go up and be that little kid who asked her a question. She gave a really good answer. I got to get the photo. She held the chakram. She was Xena. And then she had just that little personal touch at the end. And I'm sure I am not the only person to have experienced this with Lucy. And then, of course, the next day was the autograph day because she wasn't doing autographs that night. So I came back and I lined up, and thankfully, because I only had a short-term park because it was so busy and I was really tired. And I had mentioned, I was happy to line up. I didn't want to skip the line, but I just mentioned to the person, if I do start to fade, would it be possible to just get me in and get me out? And they had said, yes, that should be fine. And then they were like, Lucy has to go somewhere else, or she's going on lunch or something. And the next time wasn't for another 3 or 4 hours. And I was like, I can't be here any longer than that. But it is that thing of I don't want to push in. I just didn't want to take anyone else's place. So I just held my breath and crossed my fingers, and I'd printed out the very first article that I had ever seen on Xena, which was in TV Hits, an Australian sort of young adult teen kind of magazine. And it was just an interview with a photo. It was actually one of the photos from the Hercules series, but Xena on her own. And it was just kind of when I fell in love with her. And so I couldn't find the magazine. I actually now have it, but at the time I couldn't find it. I had to buy it again, but I found the article and I printed it out and got her to sign that. And so that was just the cherry on top. And I was one of the last few in that line that got through on that day before she closed, to go and have a break or go off to the next thing that she had to do. And so, yeah, that is my first experience with Lucy and one of the members of the cast. And I guess you'll have to wait until the end of season 4 to hear part 2 and then part 3 and then part 4 as the seasons go on. But I'm very glad that I took the time to share that with you. And I would love to hear your stories as well. Okay, so this does actually bring us to the end of this episode, which was a little longer, but you've got to tell the story with all the detail. So I will probably have a little bit of a break before season 4, and I will let you know when I'll be back, as always. If you miss me in the meantime, you can go and check out my other podcast, which is called Glitter Plus. I host that with Adam Richard, who's a writer and a comedian, and we go through a bunch of different things, but most recently we have created a spin-off, so to speak, of And Just Like That, which we're calling And Just Like Scat, which is not dirty. It's because Kim Cattrall has a video where she scats, singing. You're like, and we thought it would be funny to watch the series And Just Like That, but write Samantha back into the episodes. And it is really fun and camp and pretty quick. It's maybe 10 to 20 minute episodes and very silly and a bit naughty. But I don't think you mind that so much because I can be naughty here as well. Though we're probably more naughty on that one. But that's very fun. We also covered part 1 of Cher's book. We'll be covering part 2 as well. We covered Mariah Carey's book. We have a fake sci-fi television show called Christine Larty in Space. So definitely, if you love to laugh along at us being silly, go and check out Glitter Plus. And that'll be everywhere that you get your podcasts. Lastly, of course, as I often say, I am Possible Prince X, and that is the name of my, that's how I release my music, under that name. If you want to go to possibleprincex.com, you can go and you can buy my albums. You can also stream them if you're a streamer. And I would love that as well. And it's always lovely when, as much as I love to do other things, music is my big passion. And so it's lovely when people who maybe check out and enjoy these things that I do can also go and check out my music. And I have so many vinyl in my office and CDs. So if you like vinyl or CD, please buy one and I will sign it. And, if anyone needs to save a bit of money, let me know and I can give you a little discount as well. That doesn't, I hadn't thought of that to offer that, but I'm more than happy to do that. So here we are, the end of season 3, getting ready for season 4. Until then, battle on.